This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your source for the latest Iowa ag news headlines right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, Mark Magnuson, and Andy Peterson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Riley.
Good day and welcome to Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Riley Smith. Today is Thursday, July 10th of 2025, and we do have a bit of storm warnings across the state. Hopefully everybody stays safe. We're so glad you can join us for today's show. In today's episode, I talk with Patrick Visser of Farmer's Edge. He's the lab director out in Grimes. I actually had the chance to go out to that lab and get a tour of the facility to see behind the scenes how that soil testing process works. Also have a check of the closing markets with Cory Bratland of agmarket.net. First, here's that conversation with Patrick Visser. Again, he is the lab director at Farmer's Edge. Tell us a little bit about that soil testing process. Walk us through kind of the basics of how that gets in here, what exactly you guys are looking for in that soil.
Yeah, so Farmer's Edge Labs here in Grimes have been open since 2018. We're really opening up to the public and all interested parties who are looking for soil analysis. We're a fairly full-service soil test laboratory. We offer soil tests that are really appropriate for pretty much anyone that's in our market, whether you're in the Bray 1, Bray 2, or more classic, or if you're into Malic. We offer fairly full service for any clients that we see anywhere through the Northern Plains, down to Texas, all through the I-states, and through the Midwest.
So Patrick, when it comes to getting that soil through here, obviously bring it in, dry it out, get it processed to where it can be analyzed thoroughly. Specifically on that analysis, I think what was really interesting is when we got to the machines that turn it into plasma and we look at the light wavelengths. Give us a little bit of a basic explanation for anyone who might be curious on how that works and how exactly that determines what nutrients you have in your soil.
Yeah, there's a few analytical techniques that we put to work. The one that you mentioned here is the inductively coupled plasma, or ICP. It is an analytical technique that we use for our base cations: calcium, magnesium, sodium, potassium. We use it for sulfur as well, where it's needed. We also use it on our DTPA extract, where we're extracting and measuring for boron, copper, iron, manganese, zinc. All of these, of course, are elemental analytes, and so the ICP analyzer is really an elemental analyzer. And together with an auto sampler, we're able to automate that technique. The analysis technique actually works through using a very, very hot argon gas plasma that's runs about 10,000 Kelvin. That's about double the heat of the surface of the sun. Now at that temperature, atoms that are introduced into that plasma, they are ionized, and when they cool back off, the energy they receive as heat comes back out as a characteristic light, or a color light, or more specifically a wavelength. On those instruments, each element that we're measuring has a characteristic wavelength, and we measure the intensity of that wavelength, and we correlate that back to the calibration standards of the instrument. So when we measure an unknown, like your soil, we want to know what, for example, the concentration of potassium is. We'll measure the wavelength of the potassium, we'll measure the intensity of that light at that wavelength. Using our calibration standards on the instrument, we'll relate that back to an actual concentration. That's the number we report.
And then how is that data, once it's collected, delivered back to the agronomist, the producer, in a way that they can take that and put it into effect on their fields? Any
modern lab is really required to have a good bit of flexibility. We have clients who are using platforms of their own, platforms they subscribe to that have specific soil management or soil data transfer requirements, whether that's sending the soil sampling information, the farm, the field, the grower, perhaps some crop information to the lab, so we're able to carry that through the process. The other modern platforms, of course, will have soil test results coming back from the lab, all of which we integrate with. We have a good deal of integrations. We're able to send your soil test data back to your platform. Then we've also got, speaking to the flexibility that all modern labs are required, labs will have their own report format that we can send out if you're into PDFs, or if that's the way you manage things. We also see a lot of custom exports for spreadsheet formats, but by and large we see a good bit of integration, and everyone really coming into the modern age and pure digital transfer from your sampling design through the sampling itself, transferring that information to the laboratory about what's sampled, what grower it's for, your sample IDs, what sort of tests you want, what sort of custom testing you may need on certain grid points. From there, we're able to do our work, package that test data back, and send it back to the platform of your choice.
That again was Patrick Visser, the lab director at Farmers Edge in Grimes. We'll take a look at the closing markets next, but first, here's a word from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
Welcome back to Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and it's time now to take a look at the closing markets with Cory Bratland of agmarket.net. First off, Cory, what do we see going on in the grain markets today?
Hey, Riley, good to see you again. Grain markets kind of mixed on the day. We kind of have a combination. We've been in such a downtrend here lately. We did have some really good export sales this morning announced, especially on corn, along with another new flash sale of some corn to, I believe, well, it's unknown destination, but it seems like Mexico has been a pretty steady buyer of our corn here lately. But so corn markets, grain markets did bounce back and close the day about a penny higher in corn. November beans actually end up around 7.5, and wheat, Kansas City wheat up about a dime. So we've had that, and then traders are patiently awaiting the USDA July crop production report, which we will get out tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Central Time. So we'll be all eyes will be focused on that here tomorrow.
And of course, with that WASDE report, what are some of the things that we might be expecting from this? I know the July report tends to be a bit of a quieter one.
Yeah, it does. We do not see any changes on the yield. Acres are going to come down just a touch due to the June 30th report on the corn and the soybeans coming down a little bit. But probably the big numbers, Riley, I'll be watching are the 2024-25 marketing year carryout and the usage. So we are expecting exports to get ratcheted up higher again, just because the demand's been very strong. However, there is a question about the disappearance as far as the feed numbers. The feed numbers could offset some of that. So net, do we see the feed usage get dropped and then exports get increased and they offset each other? We'll have to. That's where we might see some fireworks. Maybe USDA will just increase our exports and not touch the feed usage. So these are I think the key numbers we'll be kind of watching for.
And then over on the livestock side of things, how did cattle and hogs trade today?
Cattle pretty wild. They shut the border down yesterday down in the southern border due to livestock trade. That shot the cattle up strong this morning. Live cattle up $2.5, $3. Feeders were up over $6 on the day. We did end up closing a little lower on the live cattle. August down about 50, 60 cents, and feeders ended up higher, but probably about $5, $5.50 off their high. So I think a lot of that, the southern border closing down or being shut down due to that screwworm, the New World screwworm, has already kind of been priced into the marketplace. So we'll have to see how the action trades tomorrow. I'm going to lean that they might be a little bit be a little stubborn to maybe move a lot higher here tomorrow after the big reversal down today.
And of course, especially with that cattle market, we have seen pretty good elevated prices for a while. So even with that pressure, still sitting mostly nice, right?
They are, and that's just it. When you're talking $3.20 feeder cattle and you got $2.20 fat cattle on the board, a normal percentage move, 3, 4, 5%, it's going to be some big dollars. So, but cash is still pretty good this week. It's seen some really hot prices across Nebraska here this week. So, I think overall the demand is still pretty strong for the cattle. It's just we're overbought, probably due for a little correction. And we got to remember, when we're at those high lofty prices, Riley, we're going to get maybe a little bit bigger correction when that does come.
Then, of course, the hog prices as well, been a little overshadowed by the performance of the cattle markets, but hog prices still sitting nicer, especially compared to this time a couple of years ago.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've got cash was stronger this week on the hogs, and I think they're starting to catch up a little bit to the cattle prices. Now we had hogs had a nice run up here about 2 weeks ago. They backed off. So to me, when I look at the charts and stuff, it's very orderly to the upside. So all in all, I think hogs are sitting in themselves a pretty good position and might be ready for a push back up to the highs.
All right, Cory, lots of great information today. For anyone who would like to get in touch with agmarket.net, how can they do that?
Yeah, easiest way, Riley, just head on over to our website, which is agmarket.net, and you can get a hold of us that way.
All right, Cory, thanks again for the analysis as always, and we'll talk again soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, Riley.
That again was Cory Bratland of agmarket.net. We'll take a look at how the numbers close through the market window at iowaagnet.com.
July corn down 5 1/4 at 407 1/4. September corn went unchanged at 399 1/4. August soybeans up 3 1/2 at 1012 1/2. September soybeans up 4 3/4 at 1002 1/4. August soybean meal up 2 even at 271.40. Soybean oil up 20 cents at 53.49. Chicago wheat up 7 1/2 at 554 1/2. Kansas City hard red wheat up 10 3/4 at 534 3/4. Spring wheat up 5 1/4 at 602 1/4. September oats up 4 1/2 at 378 even. On the Merc, August live cattle down 55 cents at 219.22. August feeders up 80 cents at 321.27. August lean hogs down $1 at 106.22. Pork cutout for August down 45 cents at 113.87. And July Class 3 milk up 7 cents at 17.39.
That's been a check of the closing market prices, and that also brings us to the end of today's show. You can find all of our content on our website at iowaagnet.com. Also follow us on social media, Facebook, X, LinkedIn, and TikTok, and find our video content as well as previous episodes of AM/PM on our YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to see when those videos go live. Check out as well our free morning, midday, and closing market podcasts, as well as the Iowa Ag Matters podcast and Pods of Potential. Find those on your favorite podcasting services at Apple, Amazon, Spotify, and Podbean, or once again on our website at iowaagnet.com under the podcast tab. From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, I'm Riley Smith. On behalf of Dustin Huffman, Ashton Jolly, Mark Magnuson, and Andy Peterson, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.